these were the works we have used so far. And we have tried to take into account all of those dimensions. And our first proposal is this one. We have intrinsic and extrinsic dimensions. The intrinsic dimensions are related to the cause themselves, and the extrinsic to the use we are making of them, like the purposes they are serving to the community of users, the sensitivity, and the updates they receive on the long run. And the intrinsic are divided into essential and accidental. The essential are the characteristics of the cause themselves. They are related to the standardization, or in other words, if they have some standard behind, like the ISO or some British standard, or some standard behind, and the structure. The structure has entities and relationships, of course. The entities are related to the types, terms, or concepts, or compound concepts, and the systematic, if they are faceted, alphabetic, and so on. And the relationship types, we have, since no relationship at all, and social constructed relationship, like in folksonomies, to very formalized relationship, like on ontologies. And the accidental, the language in which they are represented, and language can be the language like Portuguese, English, and so on. The language like HTML and RDF and OWL, and the vocabulary control. Those are related to the language. The domain, ontological precision, is domain-related characteristic. The domain coverage and the domain specificity, like we have foundational ontologies, we have domain ontologies, and so on. We have bigger thesaurus, and so on. The media and the display, they are very important characteristics too. So we think that our key contributions for the discussion are the multidimensionality of our proposal. We tend to think of our dimensions as integrated and coherent, but of course we are very open to criticism. We are separating the causes and the context. We are also separating the cause types and the cause instances. We are trying to tackle some ambiguity in the dimensions, like complexity, semantic, and formality. They are, in fact, emergent properties of some basic ones, like entities, relationships, the language, the number of concepts, the types of relationships, and so on. So we have to take those in account when deciding when we have a more complex or not. And our collateral work to date is a taxonomy of cause and its dimensions. It will be, well, it's just a part of it. We have 300 or 400 terms, and we are willing to publish it on the web, on the Glamorgan University site. Yes, I'm just finishing. Our future and ongoing work is, we want appreciation, feedback for us to enhance the model. We, some of you may have noticed that we have used the term fasted in the proceedings, in the version that came to the ISKO conference. But even before the Paris conference, we have discussed about how loosely the term fasted has been used, and we don't think we have to date a facet structure. So we are working on it. We have invited Van der Broten to work on it with this structure for it to be fast in the future. And we want to represent the work as a domain ontology, populated with instances. like WordNet and so on. And we think that this could be an effort to take into account the richness of dimensions, the cross relationships. Let's say that an ontology would be the only way we can show the results of our work. And it could be also a knowledge base that could be used for pedagogical and other practical purposes. And it would be freely available online as a resource. Oh, that was what I was to tell you. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Right, the floor is now open for questions. Our speaker said that they're open to criticism, so any questions or any criticisms people would like to ask? Yes, Joe.
Thank you so much for doing this work. It's really hard. I have tried every once in a while to dip my toe into this, and I find I find them very frustrated. For one reason, because what you call accidental characteristics and also extrinsic characteristics seem to be tightly bound to the structure. So the regime of bibliographic control is a purpose. That might be one overarching purpose we have, and there are a number of structures that would fall out underneath that. And so then that's going to be different in kind than the purpose of the MARC record, say for example, if you decided to look for that as a KOS. And so it's really quite difficult, I find, to separate these things out, especially around work practice.
Yes.
So the other thing around this is that we work with these things, right? The professionals work with these things. So they're relating to the structure in a different way than the standard might talk about it, or the way the theory books might talk about it as well. So it's not as simple as saying this is the ideal and this is the scheme and this is the instance. There's a whole sort of discursive milieu around it, and so that's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. That's one thing to think about. I don't know how you want to address that, but the other thing is when you separate classification into enumeration and faceted, there are other that can be added, depending
yes.
on who you decide to pull in and what other factors you decide to consider. In fact, right, so Ramanathan had 3 or 4 different types of faceted classifications,
yes,
depending
yes.
on how they were guided by postulates and principles. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this all comes out if we've already got 400 or so terms. If we decide to include these other things, it's going to be a gigantic project.
Yeah, well, you're absolutely right. This is an ongoing work, and although this may seem simple, we had a lot of discussions and we also know that it's ephemeral. It will change, and the version that went to the proceedings is a very abridged version. Partly because we don't have the full results of our research now, and each branch we decide to explore, it seems to be an endless one. And